Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Techie Tuesdays. I'm your host S. Ravi Kumar. Techie Tuesdays is a weekly show where I answer your tech and career related queries. So if you like my answers, then please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends, family and colleagues. Now let's get started with today's questions. Today's first question is by Ayush Mahera. He's asking, is becoming a certified Scrum developer worth it? Ayush, my opinion about any certification is kind of same. It's not worth your own money. As simple as that. So be it certified Scrum developer, be it certified any other developer, it's not worth it unless and until you are getting twice or thrice or like at least equivalent of that like money in terms of either your career growth or in terms of your salary hike or something like that. So in my opinion, as I said, that your own money is not worth for any certification. So any certification is not worth spending your own money. If your company is asking you to do that certification, that okay, you should do this certification, be it certified Scrum Master or be it any other certification. If your company is saying that you do this certification, we will kind of reimburse that certification and we are getting project for this certification, then of course you should go ahead and do it. Otherwise, none of the certification currently available in market are worth your own money, because anyway those certification will not be valued. If you go for a job change, you will still be asked interview question. It doesn't mean that if you have cleared a certification that people will not ask the questions from you on that particular topic. They will still ask question that whether you know this thing or not, whether so people don't believe on those certification exams. So in my opinion, frankly speaking, if your company is paying for that certification, go for it. If not, then of course it's not worth it, especially a certification like becoming a certified Scrum developer, because not all the companies follows this Scrum development methodology that like document in that documented format that they require a certified Scrum developer to manage their development task. Usually developers know that okay, if even they follow a Scrum development methodology in their development, they don't care much about documenting that thing or getting certified that thing, because everybody knows that in Scrum we usually have like our sprints and we have to mark our task, and our Scrum meeting we just have to tell that what we did yesterday, what we are doing tomorrow, and are we stuck on something or not. So it's kind of a common practice and it's pretty much known to everyone. So in my opinion, it's not worth your money, as simple as that. It's only worth company's money. So if company is sponsoring this certification, go for it. Otherwise it's not worth it. Next question is from Sai Sagar. He's asking, are third-party DLLs free or chargeable in .NET? Sai Sagar, it primarily depends on the requirement or the purpose of that third-party DLL. If the creation of that third-party DLL was costly, or the like time involved in that creating that third-party DLL is costly, then of course it would be a paid third-party DLL. If it is a simple to create or simply usable third-party DLL, it would be primarily open source or free. And also it depends on like who is backing that third-party DLL or who has created that third party DLL. As I said, it depends on the complexity and purpose. For example, if you see, most of the PDF libraries are paid in .NET. If you are going to create a PDF in .NET, you will have to use a paid third-party library. You can't do it using any any open source or free third-party library. There is of course one free third-party library called iTech Sharp, but again there is a learning curve involved in using that library. So if you want a easy to use PDF library, then probably you will have to pay money for that. Similarly, if you want to create Excel using .NET, there are free libraries like EP Plus is there, but again there is a learning curve, and even EP Plus also is now paid. There is only a certain version, like I think 4.5 was the last version, which was free and open source. After that, EP Plus also became paid. So if you are planning to use complex third-party DLLs, then most of the complex third-party DLLs are paid, and if only a few complex third-party DLLs are free, and those which are free, basically they have a steep learning curve. So it all depends on how ease of use you want in any third-party DLL. Also, if you are planning to use third-party DLL from any reputed company, for example, if you are going for Syncfusion control, or if you are going for Telerik control or Infragistics control, again you will have to pay license. There are of course community version of those tools or those DLLs, but that community version has some restriction that you can only create open source application using the community version of that particular library. So yes, you not but again I said that not most of the third party DLLs, only a few which are complex in implementation but easy in uses, those are kind of like paid. But those which are like easy in implementation and easily available, most of them are in open source. If you want to see what are all the open source you can say third party libraries and courses and everything, you can search for awesome.net on Google, and you will get a curated GitHub list of all the third-party DLLs, open source projects and courses related to .NET. Next question is from Yashraj Singh Rathore. He's asking, is the M1 MacBook an overkill for web development? Yashraj, yes. In my opinion, M1 MacBooks are really an overkill for web development. And frankly speaking, especially the main reason behind it is that M1 MacBooks are first generation MacBooks. Secondly, most of the web development technologies are not yet ready for M1 MacBook. If I talk about .NET, the .NET version which support M1 MacBook out of the box, that is .NET 6, it is still in preview. It will be released in November of this year, that is November 2021. Otherwise, like the .NET 5 or .NET Core 3.1, all of these .NET will work under Rosetta. The same thing applies to many other frameworks also. I think Node.js has came up with their M1 MacBook version or ARM version. I'm not sure about it, but again, still that is also still in preview. So most of the web development technologies, they are in preview. They are not M1 ready. So if you want to see which software are M1 ready, probably you need to check for is M1 ready or something like that. There is a website you can search on Google, is M1 ready, and you will be redirected to that website where you can check that which all web development platforms are basically ready for M1. But in my opinion, yes, of course, M1 is an overkill for web development because it is very costly. M1 is primarily, I would say that M1 laptops are kind of a show off, or it is more suitable for like video editing or those kind of activities, but not for web development. For web development, I would say in the cost of a basic M1. So if you are planning to buy a basic M1, let's say M1 Mac Mini comes for around 65,000 in India. And right now in 60,000 itself, you can buy a very good Windows laptop with 16 GB RAM, 512 or 256 GB of NVMe SSD hard disk, and latest quad core or dual core processor from a very reputed brand like HP, Dell, or someone like some other brand. So in my opinion, yes, M1 Mac Mini is of course an overkill for web development. If you have money, don't spend on M1 Mac Mini or M1 Mac. Better spend it on a like good, you can say desktop or laptop in Windows. Question is from Aditya. He's asking, should I go with programming in C++, C Sharp, etc., or should I opt for website development in college? I have entered engineering college in India and willing to do freelancing to pay my college fees and also to earn some pocket money. Aditya, being a C Sharp developer for last 18 years, my opinion will always be biased towards C Sharp development. So, in my opinion, yes, you should first start learning C Sharp development along with your college curriculum languages which are being taught in your college curriculum. I think in first year or second year they teach you C++ or C, then they teach you C++, then C Sharp, then Java. So when they are teaching you C Sharp, you should start learning C Sharp, start practicing C Sharp, because C Sharp will also be used in web development. So if you want to go into web development, then also C Sharp will be used. If you want to go into freelancing, then also C Sharp will be used. So out of C++ and C Sharp, my opinion or my biased suggestion will always be to learn C Sharp, because the level of C++ is the level of C++ which is used in corporates is pretty high, and at beginner level you won't be able to match up to that level. You need some level of experience and proper mentoring from the seniors who are working in that particular thing to work on C++, because C++ is mostly used in either embedded programming or very complex applications, whereas C Sharp is used in regular web development and your regular corporate applications. So in my opinion, you should surely learn C Sharp along with your web development. So it's not like either C Sharp or web development. When you learn C Sharp, of course, you can do web development, you can do mobile development, or any kind of development, whichever you want to do, you can do using C Sharp and .NET and associated technologies. However, I won't suggest you to go into freelancing just in the beginning of your college curriculum. In my opinion, if you are learning C Sharp, you should spend at least 1 to 2 years in learning C Sharp, utilizing C Sharp in developing something, maybe showcase those things in open source and participate in open source communities, maybe join Microsoft student program, or I think Microsoft student partner program is there, so something like that for student is there. So maybe join those things, join community, and then probably you can go into freelance development when you have built your own personal brand. So for first 2 years, learn C Sharp, practice it, showcase in the community, build your GitHub profile, and then from third year, start applying for freelance job or internship jobs based on whatever you have developed in last 2 years. Question is from Krishnapal Singh. He's asking, can I mention less experience in my resume for software engineering, as it is difficult to get job after 8 years of experience? Krishnapal, yes, of course, you can lessen your experience in your resume by removing initial companies just after the college, like the companies which you joined just after the college. You can maybe remove those companies, or you can lessen those companies, and you can mention that gap period as you are not working, or as you can say that you are looking for job. So you can lessen your experience. Of course, you can do that. However, I won't suggest you to do that, because if you lessen your experience level, number one, of course, you will have to lie that what you were doing in that period of time. So if you are removing 1 year, 2 year, 3 years from your resume, you have to mention that what were you doing in those 3 years after your graduation or after completing your education. So first of all, you will have to lie, and I don't know, you will have to provide particular proof according to that lie. So that would again be problematic. Second reason of not suggesting that would be that you won't get hike as per your experience level, or as per what hike you should supposed to get on your current experience level. So after 8 years of experience, whatever hike you will be getting in your next job, you won't get if you less your experiences. To me, frankly speaking, it seems like that your skills are not adequate enough as per your experience level. So rather than lessening your experience level, you should upskill yourself in whatever domain or technology you are working. So let's say you are a .NET developer with 8 years of experience, and right now you are only working in a regular Windows .NET application. So I think you should upskill yourself from Windows desktop developer to a web .NET developer. So I'm just giving you an example of how you can upskill yourself in the same domain in which you are working. So try to find out the same domain in which you are working, like more skills in the domain in which you are working, and upskill yourself as per your experience level, and then hopefully for sure you will get more job calls. Next question is from Akshit Saxena. He's asking, can a full-time career be replaced with freelancing to give more time to yourself? Akshit, theoretically, yes, it is possible, but practically, I won't suggest that, or in my opinion, practically, it is very tough to achieve. If you are already working as a full time employee, you are getting a certain amount of salary. And if you plan to move to freelance, then you will have to do some compromises in respect to that salary, and probably you will have to lessen your expenses based on your salary or based on the amount you will be getting from the freelance, because freelancing is not that easy that from you will just leave your full-time job and then move into freelancing. You will have to first build your brand, either in freelancing or even in job also. Nowadays I say that you will have to build your brand, but for freelancing especially, you will have to build your brand in the niche or in the thing which you are doing, or whatever technical job or whatever development, designing, whatever you are doing, whatever niche on which you are working, you will have to first build your brand so that you could earn enough which will be equivalent to your full-time salary, so that you can maintain your expenses. So if you are ready to do the compromise on your expenses for initial few years, I would say it may take 1 to 2 years. It depends on how hard you work, because again, in when you are working as a freelancer, you will be charged, you will be spending, or you will be giving your hourly, you can say you will be charged hourly, or you will be earning hourly. Initially it seems like it is larger, like it is more than your full-time salary, but frankly speaking it won't, because it will be like you will be trading your time for the money, and you will have to analyze properly that how much time is suitable enough for your, like how much money you will earn. So you will have to do all those calculations, and you will also have to take care of your regular expenses like your insurance, all the benefits which you are getting in a full-time job. You won't be getting that in a freelancing gig. So shifting from a full-time job to a freelancing gig is, of course, I won't. So shifting from a full-time gig to a freelancing job is possible, but of course it will take some time, because you need to build your brand, you need to manage your expenses, and you might have to compromise with your hourly rates in the beginning. Later on, when you have a particular, you have built your own brand, you are commanding money for your niche. At that time, maybe you will be able to take out time for more time for yourself, and maybe you will make some passive income sources. But directly moving from a full-time job to freelancing is very tough. So these were my answers to your tech and career related queries in this episode of Techie Tuesdays. If you like your questions to be featured in next episode of Techie Tuesdays, you can DM me your questions on any social media platform. All my social media handles are Techie Rathor. I hope you like my answers, and if you like my answers, then please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and share this video with your friends, family and colleagues. So until my next video, take care. Bye bye.